Applicants to the Indian School of Business are required to provide one letter of recommendation as part of their application. Let us first look at the logistics of the letter of recommendation. In the application, the applicants provide the official email ID of the person whom they have chosen to provide the recommendation. The application subsequently triggers an email to the recommender with a specific set of questions. These questions assess and evaluate recommender's interaction with the applicant. The recommender responds to those questions, which are a mix of objective and subjective questions. This video discusses the best practices vis-a-vis the letter of recommendations in ISB application. Candidates applying to ISB generally have the following queries about the letter of recommendation. What is the purpose of LOR? Who is an ideal candidate to seek LOR from? Does the recommender's designation matter? What should be emphasized and highlighted in the LOR? Can there be an overlap between the LOR and the essays? How long should the response to each question be? We discuss each of the above questions in this video. Let us start with the purpose of letter of recommendation. The intent of LOR is to provide an assessment or endorsement of the applicant's character, abilities, skills, achievements, and potential. The LOR provides additional insight and evidence of the applicant's abilities and potential beyond their own self-assessment. Your recommender should be a person whom you have extensively interacted with in a professional context. For YL candidates, however, this could also be academic context. Next, we come to the ideal candidate to seek LOR from. The LOR should be provided by a person who can vouch for professional credentials of the applicant. The ideal person who should provide the LOR is the applicant's supervisor in the current organization that the applicant is working in. This is, however, not always possible, since the applicants might not want to let their current supervisor know of their MBA aspirations. Hence, a former supervisor, either in the current company or in the previous one, can also be considered for recommendation. We generally suggest that the recommender should be a person whom you have worked with in the last 3 years. Note that your colleagues or friends do not qualify as ideal recommenders. Applicants often wonder whether a recommendation from a CXO would be more impactful than a recommendation from their current supervisor, who perhaps does not carry a fancy designation. We suggest that recommendations should be taken from a person whom you have consistently worked with and who can vouch for your credentials firsthand. In most cases, that person would be your immediate supervisor. So, a recommendation from your immediate supervisor, whom you have extensively worked with, would be more preferable than a recommendation from someone with a fancy designation whom you almost never directly worked with. The LOR is supposed to be a private conversation between ISB and your recommender. However, in many cases, the recommenders do discuss with the applicants the most relevant content that should be highlighted and emphasized in the LOR. In response to the question on the most important piece of constructive feedback given to the applicant, a genuine weakness should be highlighted. These could be aspects such as inability to say no, spreading oneself too thin by taking up too many responsibilities, or inefficient time management, etc. The weakness highlighted as part of this response should be corroborated by an instance. Ideally, this response should end with a statement that mentions that the applicant is aware of this weakness and has taken steps to improve upon it. Another query that the candidates have is whether there can be an overlap between the LOR and the essays. Certainly, there can be an overlap. After all, you are likely to highlight instances of accomplishments in your essays. Some of those instances might have captured your recommender's attention as well, and your recommender might also choose to highlight those instances. Obviously, the recommendation cannot be an exact replica of your essays. How long should the response to each question be? Well, as far as the length of the LOR goes, Remember that more is not necessarily better. Let us think about it. The subjective questions, generally 4 in number, normally have a word limit of 500 words each. Hence, the total number of words for these 4 questions translate into a cumulative 2,000 words. That is a massive effort and would hog an enormous bandwidth of the recommenders. Hence, we suggest that recommenders not worry about the word limit and focus on providing the most relevant response to each question. If this relevant content consumes only 100 to 200 words for each response, it's completely fine. In other words, quality matters more than quantity. We wish ISB applicants a very good luck and hope that your ISB dream becomes your future.